Hello Essentials students, welcome to week 7 virtually. Sorry that we couldn't meet today, but I hope that you're all enjoying an afternoon off, and we are going to briefly go over what's in our lesson this week. So moms, if you are going along and want them to answer a question about something, feel free to pause and see if they know the answer before I go on. It's a little hard to do it interactively, asking questions and then having you guys answer is hard, right? So it'll be a quick overview and let me know if you have any questions. We are on week 7, and as we go into week 7, we're reviewing some conjunctions that we started talking about, and you will recognize fanboys and you'll recognize www.asia.wub, the mouthful. And I will have next week when we meet, I will have these handouts for you that you can keep. We'll cut them and you will have them in your folder. They will have your coordinating conjunctions and your subordinating conjunctions, so you can easily reference them and have them nearby when you're writing your paper or writing a sentence. But so you can go over fanboys and asia.wub, what they stand for. We've got for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so for fanboys, and we focused more on that last week. This week we're also talking about subordinating conjunctions, and it's on that chart H that you all should have been copying this week, and we'll continue to do so. But when, while, where, as, since, if, although, whereas, unless, because. So we are staying with our compound structure and our SVT-DO pattern, but we're also going to be studying it this week with the imperative purpose and adding adverbs. So if you remember, what does SVT-DO stand for? That's our sentence pattern after SVI. So we've got SVT-DO, subject, verb transitive, direct object, right? What is a transitive verb? And I'll pause so you can pause if you need to, or you can just keep watching. A transitive verb is a verb that transfers action from the subject to our direct object. Can any verb be transitive? No, not any verb can be transitive, because we have our SVI pattern, right? Our subject verb intransitive, where the verb isn't transferring action. So instead of she fell, the falling isn't transferring to anything, but she kicked the ball. Kicked would be transitive because she kicked the ball. The ball is receiving that action. And if we remember, parts of speech that can be direct objects are nouns and pronouns. Nouns and pronouns is all for direct objects. So remember, with a compound sentence, we have 2 or more independent clauses that are connected by a coordinating conjunction. There's always a comma before the conjunction. So we've talked about fanboys and asia.wub. And when we worked with the subject, verb transitive, direct object pattern and compound structure, we were using declarative and exclamatory purposes. But as I mentioned, we're going to go to imperative. Last week, we looked at this sentence: she will cook dinner and he will wash dishes. And we diagrammed it, we figured out our independent clauses and our coordinating conjunction right there. So, and we could have changed our pronouns to people in our class. We could have said, Ava will cook dinner and Ellie will wash dishes, right? We could have used personal pronouns in there. But we're going to talk about imperative purpose. And as we head there, how would you make this exclamatory first? So right now it is declarative. How would you make that exclamatory? It's very simple, right? Right there. That makes it exclamatory. And how would we make it imperative? So we've talked about this a little bit in previous weeks. What is the assumed subject? That's a little hint there for an imperative sentence. When you have an imperative sentence, it's an implied you, right? So our subject is implied, an implied you with imperative. So if we were to make this sentence imperative, maybe you could try it. How would you make it imperative? And then I'll show you one way that you could make it imperative. All right, so one way to make this imperative would just be to change it to cook dinner and wash dishes. We are saying that to someone, but we don't know exactly who, right? It's an implied you. So cook dinner and wash dishes. So we would like to keep the meaning of this sentence consistent. And when we change it to imperative, a lot of times we miss out on what they were trying to communicate. So if we want to still include our names of Ava and Ellie like we use, so we've got Ava will cook dinner and Ellie will wash dishes. Well, when we go to cook dinner and wash dishes, we don't know who we're talking to, right? It changed some of the meaning because you could be talking to one person or two people. So when we change this, we are learning something new called a noun of direct address. So a noun of direct address keeps those names, but also keeps our imperative purpose. So second tour students, you already have an idea of what this is. First tour students, I will show you what our new sentence will look like if we use an NDA, which is a noun of direct address. All right, so I have changed our sentence. This is still imperative, okay? Our subject is still an implied you. Now remember, it's compound, so there's two of them, but we're keeping them the same to keep it simple. But we have Ava cook dinner and Ellie wash dishes. So Ava and Ellie in this sentence are our noun of direct address, or nouns of direct address. But as we focus on one sentence pattern at a time, Ava would be our noun of direct address. So Ava is our noun of direct address, as is Ellie, and it's always followed by a comma. The rest of the sentence stays the same. We don't change anything else. Sometimes you have to change a conjunction if need be, but at this point, you don't change anything else. You just change your noun of direct address, but this is still imperative. The imperative, it's saying, Ava, you cook dinner. Ellie, you wash dishes. So that implied you is still there, but we have a little more information. So I have put a new sentence up here, and I would like to see if you can change it to an imperative purpose. We've got Lucy held the football and Charlie kicked the ball. So how would we change that to be imperative, but not lose the people, the information that we need about who's doing what? Use a noun of direct address. See how you do. All right, so how did you do on imperative purpose? We kept everything else in the sentence the same, but we used a noun of direct address. So Lucy hold the football and Charlie kick the ball. You can picture yourself saying, Lucy, you hold the football, and Charlie, you kick the ball. So our subject is still you. It's the implied you, but we have two nouns of direct address, one at a time if you don't want to focus on the compound part of that. So next, I'm going to show you how we would diagram that. Second tour students, do you remember how to diagram a noun of direct address? If not, I'm going to show you in half a second. But there's a different way to diagram this so that we know that it's imperative, that the subject is still an implied you. Okay, I hope you can see this all right, but this is how we would diagram this sentence. So we have our implied you as our subject. Okay, Lucy hold the football, the modifies football, and remember this line doesn't go through because this is a direct object. The only line that goes all the way through is between our subject and our predicate, which is like our verb phrase or what's being said about the subject. Then we've got, and Charlie kicked the ball. So we would put our you right there, our implied you, in parentheses, kick the ball, the modifies ball, just like football there. And Charlie and Lucy hang out on these lines above our subject, or even a little off to the side. They are showing us, hey, there's a noun of direct address here, but it's not the subject. So this gives us more information about the subject. If we didn't have Lucy and Charlie, it would be a little more confusing. But because we have Lucy and Charlie, and it's imperative, then they go on their own lines, hanging out above the subject. So hopefully that makes sense for imperative purpose. We're still in compound, we're still in SVTDO, subject, verb, transitive, direct object, and we will always connect our verbs, our verb phrases with our coordinating conjunction, all right? All right, so the last part of grammar this week is to talk about appositives, not just a positive, but appositives as another part of speech. Appositives. There we go. Moms, you might want to read a little bit more about this in your EEL guide, but appositives are a noun or a pronoun that go along with another noun to help give more information, to explain or identify something. So we have a sentence here, my dog can jump. Perfectly fine sentence. We also have adding one more detail, my dog Ruby can jump. So it's not just my dog can jump, but my dog Ruby, I'm going to give the name in there. It identifies the dog, but it's not an adjective. It doesn't describe the dog. So what do we do with that? It is called an appositive. And when we go to diagram an appositive, we leave the subject the same, just as before both of these. The subject is dog. My modifies dog because we can answer which dog? My dog, right? My dog, Ruby. So Ruby goes in parentheses right next to dog. It hangs out with it because it gives us a little more information. So we don't deal a ton with appositives right now, but it is introduced this week that appositives are nouns or pronouns that give more information about a noun, and they hang out with it on the main subject line. Dog is subject, but Ruby gives more information. That is an appositive. And then can jump is our verb phrase, right? So we have noun of direct address and appositives. And those are both explained a little more thoroughly in your book. So look at that if you need more help. All right, as we wrap up grammar for this week, I'd like you to look at this sentence and think about how you would diagram it. Or if your mom would like you to diagram it, go ahead and try. Notice the appositive in here that we just talked about. That's a little hint for how to diagram it and see how you do. All right, how did the diagramming go? We have my friend Charlie quickly kicked the ball. So we have our subject is friend, right? My friend Charlie. It's about your friend Charlie. Friend, but here's our appositive. It's giving not just my friend quickly kicked the ball, but my friend Charlie quickly kicked the ball. So we've got my that tells us which friend, and I threw in an ly adverb here, and it modifies how he kicked it. Did he kick it slowly? Did he kick it swiftly? He kicked it quickly. So it modifies kicked and goes on a slanted line underneath. And then ball. Which ball? The ball. So that the modifies ball. So we will try one more. All right, I am giving you one more to try, and this time we are using noun of direct address. Okay, this is imperative, so I'm giving you a hint there, but it says Tom neatly paint the fence and Huck carefully cut the grass. All right, how was that diagramming? We have our implied you, our imperative purpose, Tom neatly paint the fence, and Huck carefully cut the grass. So we have our noun of direct addresses up above, hanging out above our implied you subject. We have our verb, and it's transitive because it's transferring action. Paint what? Paint the fence. Cut what? Cut the grass. The and the both modifying fence and grass. And then we have ly adverbs that are modifying our verbs. Adverbs modify verbs. So we have neatly paint, carefully cut, and of course they are connected by our coordinating conjunction, which again is and. So that is all for our grammar this week. Let me know if you have any questions.